Hello and welcome into the Sporting JAX Report along with Mauricio Ruiz. I'm Cole Pepper. We've got some great USL action, big moves from some USL franchises to get to, and yes, US Open Cup continues as the USL teams jump into Open Cup action this week. But first, I want to remind you to follow us with the Sporting Pod, our weekly podcast that includes Mauricio, Tony Allegretti, and I. On the most recent episode, we discussed the CBS Network debut of the USL Championship and one local girls soccer star representing the U.S. overseas. We'll be talking this week about these US Open Cup matches we'll talk about in just a moment and answer your questions. You can send us your questions at sportingpod@sportingjax.com, and you can find Sporting Pod on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and Amazon Music. All right, let's get into off-the-field action before we get to the on-the-field action, Mauricio. A couple of big announcements this week by USL Championship clubs on the real estate front, including Indy 11 announcing that they are going forward. They have their groundbreaking, and 11 Park will be built. The 20,000-seat capacity stadium is not just a stadium. It is a commercial build around it, 600 residential units, retail, restaurants, office, and hotels, public parking, a 4,000-seat music venue. What we're seeing around the USL is more of this kind of an approach for a lot of clubs who are trying to do more than just build a soccer stadium. It's a whole economic engine that they're putting in Indianapolis.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest story of the USL. That it's kept hidden or quiet because it's not on the field stuff, and we want to talk about it on the field because that's the fun part of it. But really, for the growth of the USL and for the USL to grow into a level where it's going to attract the ability to get better players, better quality of stadiums, better friendlies of international teams, the venues have to improve, and the USL is aware of that. The owners are aware of that. So you're going to see a lot of these new parks or villages being built from now on to 26, 27, 28. Really, any new team and team that currently doesn't have their own facility are moving in that direction.
One of those that has been playing in a baseball stadium, Isotopes Park, New Mexico United, they also passed a big landmark this week with regard to their real estate developments. You can take a look here, and the Environmental Planning Commission voting in Albuquerque unanimously to approve an amendment to Balloon Fiesta Park's master plan. That allows for construction of the stadium, 10,000-seat capacity. They plan for a 2026 opening. This isn't quite as broad of a commercial development, but it is a big step forward. We've talked about New Mexico United has drawn very, very well through the years at playing in a baseball park. But boy, it does make a huge difference to own your own place.
It does, and I think each market will have a different plan for it, but ultimately it's about owning your own facility so you can actually now create an environment, an atmosphere for soccer for your, as you mentioned, New Mexico, Albuquerque. But what a great fan base that they have. Yeah, if they build a 20,000-seat facility, will they create the same atmosphere? Probably not. So they want to pack that stadium. They already do that on the baseball ground. Now, Indy is a more metropolitan area. They can attract other events. So really kind of thinking bigger and what other events can attract to the facility. And I think you're going to see a little bit of that kind of going forward, whether 10, I think, will be a minimum, up to 20 to 25, once again, depending on your ability to attract other events to your city.
And of course, hopefully it won't be too long before we can tell you more about what's happening with Jacksonville and the stadium build and plans here for Sporting JAX. All right, let's get into the action on the pitch in the USL Championship and take a look at the results from this past week. And again, we saw some games with some big score lines. Tampa Bay beating Miami 5-2 in the Florida Derby. You had Charleston Battery, the 3-2 winner over Louisville City. And Monterey Bay putting up a 3 spot. So did Oakland Roots in victory. So we've got some teams scoring goals. And on the other end, you've got some games that, this is sort of what you expect, isn't it? A few 0-0s, maybe a 1-1 here and there, and then some other games with more goals being scored.
Yeah, we talk about in soccer, goals change games. And so if you kind of, depending on what style you play, some teams will get scored on and they'll sit back a little bit still because they still think they can kind of get a goal and they can get a tie. Rhode Island is one of those teams that they're not going to kind of just throw caution to the wind. I mean, I think they have 4 ties right now in a matter of 6 games. So they're still learning who they are. They don't want to lose big. And if they take on a goal and then they kind of go out. So you see a lot of ties kind of going around. I think it's very dependent on style of play. Where you see Tampa Bay and you see Miami, Charleston, Indy. When a goal goes in, I mean, they kind of do throw caution to the wind because that's their style. They're gonna go for it. So score lines can really kind of deviate, even though the game doesn't really kind of tell that story.
Yeah, of course, weather in the north can also impact things here early on in the season. Let's take a look at the standings, starting in the Western Conference, where Orange County sits atop, level with Sacramento Republic. Orange County gets the number 1 seed thanks to their goal differential, but 6 games, 12 points for those two teams, and then just a point behind Monterey Bay. Boy, the state of California is getting it done this year in the USL Championship.
They really are, and I think it's going to be super competitive going all the way down to the wire. And we talked about results and how teams are managing their games. You know, that's something to think about as well, right? Can I get a point on the road? Maybe you're not playing as well, maybe the weather, the turf, whatever. And if you're on the road and it's 0-0 towards the end of the game, you're going to lock it in, try to kind of get that point because it's going to be very competitive. And you look at Monterey, New Mexico, Vegas, really 3 teams that we were not talking about last year. Now they're sitting in the top 5.
Of course, Colorado Springs still looking for their first result of the season. In the East, Charleston Battery sitting atop, undefeated, 7 matches, 15 points. Louisville City right behind. But this is a much more bunched up group when you look at, say, teams 4 through 8, just 3 points separate them.
Yeah, and you'll see that, early in the season, Battery said they've played more games than everyone else. There will be, whether it's Open Cup play or some other things that are going to be happening. You're going to see sometimes a separator of 2 to 3 games, which changes the point system for sure. But Battery, you can't take anything away from them. 7 games, no really drop, and at home, 15 points. What a start for them.
Well, let's get right to it. The Battery was involved in our match of the week as they took on Indy 11, and in front of over 8,500 at Michael A. Carroll Stadium, the one that they'll be replacing in Indy. They got it going early on, did Charleston.
Yeah, just a good, nice little cut back, Icasa. But when Battery gets forward, Cole, they really go forward fast. Just a second before that, it was actually they intercepted the ball and then a high press, and he sent a little cut back. Just a bad recovery from Indy 11, and Icasa goes and puts it away.
Nick Markanik with the assist there. Remember that name. And then here's a new name for Indy fans, Tiga Ikoba with his first goal for Indy 11.
Yeah, and he just arrived, and Indy's a brand new zip code from a Portland Timbers, academy player, getting his chance to play in the USL, and he gets it done in his second game in.
All right, 1-1, and then in the 28th minute, Aiden Stanley, nice service in for Sebastian Guinzotti to put it away.
Right, and Jack Blake is leading Indy 11 in goals right now, but they really have an expectation that Guinzotti is the guy that connects the lines for them in the final third. So getting a header, not really a good goal scorer goal, and he'll take and make it 2-1.
Stoppage time in the first half, and what a blast here by Nick Markanik. He has been making plays seemingly every week for Charleston.
Well, and they are hot, and he's one of the main reasons why they're hot right now. He's got the lethal left foot. You see that angle from behind. What an unbelievable shot.
All right, a couple of Indy chances here in the early stages of the second half. They certainly could have made this a different game had they converted on these chances.
Well, a 2-2 game. You can see it here, beginning of the second half. It could go anywhere. Augie Williams, a former Battery player. 2 really good chances for Indy to go ahead, but not to be.
In 75th minute, off a corner, it goes as an own goal. This will haunt you if you're sitting on the back post.
And a really good flick of Smith. And that's why you make that near post run. Really aggressive near post run. So when you kind of get that flick in, anything can happen.
Markanik again creating some havoc for Charleston.
Not on his strongest foot, on the right foot. Probably a finish on his left. He would have finished. He would have put it away.
And then 86th minute, Ikaza to Matt Myers, who really did some work here on this one.
Cool. And I've been saying it from the very beginning. Matt Myers, he's connecting a lot of dots for the Battery, and he's not a huge goal scorer, but he creates a lot of chances in the final third as a number 9. He just came in from New York City FC's 2 team, and I think Matt Myers is a player that's connecting a lot of what Battery's doing. And he has a lot of work to do here still. He has 2 defenders kind of catch up to him. He turned them around and put it in the corner where the keeper couldn't get it.
4-2 the final. Charleston with a victory. The Battery stay unbeaten. They go to the top of the Eastern Conference. As we showed you, 3 straight losses for Indy after they started the season with 4 points in their first 2 matches. In the big picture here, again, we're only 6 weeks into the season, but are you seeing some trends from some of these top teams in particular?
Yeah, absolutely. Something that Battery did not do last year often was score a lot of goals. They scored, but typically they won games tight. Right? They were that 1-0, 2-1. They're scoring goals this year, right? And they lost some good players that they transferred out, and they brought in a lot of good attacking players. But some of their returners are just continue on the trend of what they were doing. But a lot of the top teams, they're not giving up a lot of goals. And I think that's what happens with top teams. You can see the scoreline of 5-2 and 2 goals against Indy. It's not bad, Indy, especially in Indy. But the top teams, they don't give up a lot of goals. So you have to get solid on defense, which is the opposite of what happened with Indy 11. They are a good team. They can score goals, as you showed, but 3 losses in a row because their defense is just really struggling right now.
All right. Well, we'll see if some of the USL Championship teams that will play in the U.S. Open Cup might find a chance to get healthy there in some regards. There are a raft of games involving USL Championship teams coming up here in the Open Cup. In fact, there are 16 teams from the USL Championship starting US Open Cup play here this week. And you see the rundown there. 8 of these matchups involve USL Championship games against USL League One teams. 3 of them involve championship teams against NPSL, 1 against a NISA team. And to me, the most interesting right now, USL Championship against MLS Next Pro, because this is really when we talk about, particularly within the US Open Cup, because of the way MLS has approached US Open Cup this year, to see how those MLS Next Pro teams play against USL Championship teams, there might be a little extra in there for some of these teams.
Well, absolutely, and I think it's an opportunity for the USL Championship to represent itself in the final, quarters, in the finals, in final 16. Strong, because they should be knocking some of these teams out, because realistically MLS Next Pro squads are under 21 squads for large, some of them a little bit older, but largely under 21. So championship teams, if they take care of business, they should be seeing when the MLS first teams come in, which is the next round, and they should come in strong and with a lot of confidence. Hopefully some of the League One teams will be standing. And I mean, I don't want any USL teams to lose, but from a soccer standpoint, it'd be great to see some of these amateur teams kind of keep, carry on. It'd just be fun.
Yeah, looking at you, El Farolito.
That's right.
They've had an unbelievable run here this year in the US Open Cup. We'll remind you to become a member of Sporting JAX. It's the best way to stay connected with what's happening here with the club, and it's absolutely free. Just go to sportingjax.com to sign up. You get discounts on official club merchandise, invitations to VIP events, automatic entry into competitions, and chances to win special prizes and experiences. And you'll receive the Sporting JAX monthly email newsletter. Plus, you can place a deposit on your season tickets and receive first access to seats and a special limited edition Sporting JAX founding member pin. Just go to sportingjax.com to sign up. Our goal of the week, we leave you with the Florida Derby. Miami FC hosting Tampa Bay Rowdies. Alan Gavilanes with this missile to the upper 90. His 4th of the season, but not enough as Tampa Bay beats Miami 5-2 in the Florida Derby. For Mauricio Ruiz, I'm Cole Pepper. Thanks for watching the Sporting JAX Report.